Hey everyone, welcome back to the Laravel Creator Spotlight podcast. And with me today is none other than James Brooks. James has been around Laravel, man, forever, I think. But now he's on the Laravel team and he is heading up Forge. So James, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric.
Yeah, so for those that don't know you, can you tell us just a little bit about your role, in Laravel Incorporated itself?
Yeah, so I'm the engineering team lead for, we call it the core services team, but really that's Laravel Forge, Vapor, and Envoyer. And then primarily recently, well, in the last year, that's been focused very much on Forge. Um, so yeah.
Laravel Forge, of course, has, it's been around for years now. Um, what problem was it originally solving and why was Forge created originally?
Yeah, so Laravel Forge, for those of you who don't know, is a server provisioning and site deployment, maintenance, management platform. And it was a long time ago that I had to last set up a server without Forge, but I remember very vividly that it was a nightmare, right? You have to remember that you've got to install the right version of Ubuntu. You need to have a provider. You need to have your SSH keys generated. And then that's before you even get onto the server and you've created everything. You install all the applications, you configure things in a way that makes sense, and you can jump back on at any time. And I'd previously used things like MCS or CMS and cPanel and those kind of things, but it was always so complicated to do them. So you'd find yourself using them, spinning up servers yourself and managing everything. But Forge takes the pain out of all of that, and does so much more than you could probably do by yourself.
Thankfully, I've been a customer forever. Like, I remember when Taylor first launched it, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, this should have been created, years ago. It's so good. I love that. So the Forge, you've been working, I know the whole team has been behind the scenes. You've got a brand new launch. Can you tell me sort of the highlights of the new launch?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of changes really, beyond just the visual refresh that we've given Forge as well. So we've now introduced kind of from the top down organizations. So previously you would sign up for Forge by yourself, and then you could add people in with like circles, which were half-baked teams. So we now have full organization support where you can add, on the business plan, you can add people into that organization and actually share your servers, your sites, your source control providers, those kind of things, with your entire team and actually control their permissions on a granular level. So yeah, organizations and teams, like as you would expect them to work. Then we've got zero downtime deployments finally baked into Forge itself. We have introduced health checks. So when you deploy your site, we'll now ping your site from 3 regions and check that it was a successful deployment. We've introduced heartbeats. So if you have scheduled jobs, especially within Laravel, you can do then, you can like chain on a then ping, and you could ping your heartbeat URL. Forge will let you know if it's not seen anything for a few minutes. What else have we done? We've added next and Nux support. We've it's very easy to get started with deploying those applications now. We manage the whole background processes that are required there. And then one of the big things is Laravel VPS, which is a partnership we have with DigitalOcean to provide really, really good value for money servers that are instantly available. They take less than 10 seconds to provision. We have an integrated terminal that comes with that as well, so you don't even need to SSH into a server anymore. When you're using Laravel VPS, you can control backtick or launch terminal and just get started with access to it straight away. Yeah, there's many other features, nice features that we've added, improvements that we've made, but they're the highlights.
Yes. Well, and a brand new UI. Like the whole thing is
Yeah,
modern now and looks really good. It's amazing how good it looks.
yeah.
And to go with that, I think you've added a new what do you call those things? It's like the command K, like command
Command
palette.
palette.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got a whole new system for all that. So it's
yeah.
got
So
a whole lot of stuff in.
we actually had a command palette in the previous version of Forge, but it was never really as good as the one that we have now. The one that we've introduced has full searching. You can search for service sites, recipes, organizations. You can open modals while looking at one thing and not another. It's fully contextually aware. It's super quick to use. I use it every single time I open Forge.
That's how you know it's a good feature right there.
Yeah.
So what new features are you personally most excited about?
VPS, definitely. I think servers that like when you provision a server with a different provider, it typically takes like 8 to 14 minutes, depending on what you're requesting the installation to be. And really, you just want to get started with deploying your application. So Laravel VPS takes out all of the kind of time that you would sink into getting started. But then genuinely the command palette, we built that during a hackathon with the team, and it was just incredible. Like we had some ideas of how we wanted it to work. We took inspiration from Linear, GitHub, various other command palettes, and we kind of brought it to life. And it really set the direction as well for how the rest of Forge was built. So it's like, I don't know, technically it's quite fun. We hand rolled everything, but it's also super powerful. And every time I open something, without even leaving like a dashboard, I'm pretty blown away with it myself. And so, yeah, very excited by that.
Love it, love it. So if we take a step back and sort of behind the scenes as an employee, as a work, somebody who's building all this, was there any pain points from the old version to the new version that you were like, just determined you had to fix when y'all were going through all this code and coming up with the next version?
Yeah, so the development of the next generation of Forge started in June 2024. And one of the first things that we kind of decided that we were going to fix was this single level account and circles feature that we had previously. We knew that we needed to do organizations, teams, and roles. So we could introduce role-based authorization. And that was particularly tricky. Like there was one of the first things was, okay, we need to completely shift everything up in like a hierarchy so that we have the organization very much at the top and then everything below it. But to do that, there was like so many table column renames. We had to migrate all of the existing circle users into proper team members. We had to generate roles for them that were true to what they'd had in their previous permissions. So yeah, the organizations and teams was definitely like the number one bugbear that we had with it. And then from there was really, could we speed up the provisioning process at all? Like not just with Laravel VPS, but other providers. And we wanted to really elevate like all of the information you get from Forge. We've ended up condensing these down into dashboards. So you have a dashboard for the organization, server, and site. And that needed to be, we needed to do some work behind the scenes there to kind of pull out the actual relevant information. If you deployed a site, then that's a recent site. So we needed to make sure that we could give that site to you because it's probably the one that you're most interested in. And then, yeah, the other technically difficult part of this was that we've been shipping this new version of Forge alongside the previous version. So it was actually the kind of legacy version was actually behind a feature flag, and it was a compatibility layer that kind of made everything work backwards. That was technically very difficult as well.
That's pretty neat. So I know Laravel has, I think it's called Pin It, right? That has feature flags that you can act. So it's already an included Laravel feature. If anybody's listening and you want to take your app from like this old version to a new version and sort of do it simultaneously, instead of sort of all in one go. Which that sort of brings up my question too, is like, the app itself, like Forge behind the scenes, like the Laravel side, y'all just sort of do like a standard Laravel app, right? It's nothing too like crazy. The way you do like controllers, models, stuff like that.
Yep, it's very much, we kind of pride ourselves really that it is just a traditional Laravel application. We're not doing anything crazy. Beyond the kind of feature flags that we previously had in place for this launch. So if you take those out, it's very much just a standard Laravel application, but it's like a very big Laravel application.
Gotcha. So I assume that helps too, as from a business standpoint. So when you hire new developers on that team, they can just sort of jump right in if they know Laravel.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that we've like the team has grown quite a lot in the last year, and the thing that they get like new engineers are tripped up on kind of how we use like a somewhat custom job system to run the actual code on your server, like the bash scripts behind the scenes. But everything else is just a Laravel, like standard Laravel application.
That's awesome. Yes, I love that, and that to me, like that's I know everybody harps on just keeping everything standard, but then you have other people that want to go and change everything. I've always been a big fan of just having it standard, and you can always jump in and see where everything's at. Um, so next on my question list is sort of a comparison because I know this question is probably going to come up a lot, and you probably already had it a lot. All right, so Laravel has Forge, Cloud, and Envoyer. How are those all three going to fit moving forward? Like, I guess why do you pick one over the other, or is Envoyer going away now? Is things like that. Like, how are you sort of pitching that to people that are asking?
Yeah, so I'll start with Envoyer there. Envoyer, for those of you listening who aren't familiar, is a deployment or is a zero downtime deployment platform. So before zero downtime was like a table stakes feature of any good deployment server management platform, we had Envoyer, we still have Envoyer, that handles zero downtime. Now, the advantage of using Envoyer over the Forge zero downtime system that we've introduced is that Envoyer supports deploying one site to multiple servers at a time, whereas Forge is still very much single site, single server deployment. So you get zero downtime, but it's only on one server at a time. And the other part of Envoy is that you don't actually need to be using Forge or even Laravel to use it. We have people deploying WordPress sites, Dynamic, Magento, not even just PHP. And then because you also don't need to use Forge or anything with it, we're going to keep maintaining Envoy, keep it alive. It's not going anywhere. And then the difference between Forge and Cloud. So we're in a unique position in that we kind of are targeting both sides of the deployment market. You have Cloud on one side that is fully managed and serverless. We have those servers and we manage them for you essentially. And Cloud is really aimed at the people that want to scale without worrying about deployments and servers and that kind of thing. They just want to take their application, get it out there super quickly, super reliably. But the caveat with Cloud is that it's a very limited, right now at least, it's a very limited runtime, so that you can't install custom extensions, you can't deploy other types of, other languages, or even other frameworks. Forge, on the other hand, is like the anti-cloud in that sense. You have a VPS that you own or you rent from a provider, and then we set that up in a way that is we're able to deploy your site to it. Now that site can be PHP, Nuxt, Next. They're this kind of like Dynamic and WordPress, of course. And you can deploy any of those directly through Forge. If you want to do anything custom, you're more than welcome to. You have SSH access, root SSH access to your server because it is your server. You can install custom runtimes. You could configure Ruby or Go, Node background processes if you wanted to run something like Ghost as well. That's all doable through Forge, but it requires like actually being familiar with how to set those up. And you could still use the Forge UI to do things like that. I personally run a Ghost blog on Forge that is actually just me doing a custom site essentially within Forge. That's not to say that Cloud won't have any of these features in the future, but right now that's where Forge is kind of positioning itself, is that you can deploy anything. Forge is freedom.
I like it. Well, so that brings up another question. So the Laravel, like if you're on Forge and you pick the Laravel VPS option, you still have complete SSH access and everything. So like you could do that and still like install your custom extensions or whatever thing you might need on your servers.
Yeah. So the server is kind of within our own DigitalOcean account, you could say, and then we like rent it to you essentially on behalf of Laravel. And then you still get root access to that. You can still control that server. You can still reboot it. You can still deploy anything to it. It's all fine. It's like using DigitalOcean itself for that kind of example, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that was one of the questions somebody threw out to me, and I was like, I'm really not sure. I was like, I'm assuming it's your own server, but it's always good to have the have your opinion on it.
You can do anything you want with that server.
And so Forge, it's been out 10 years now. It's pretty close, I think.
I think it might be 11.
11. So this is the
right?
Yeah, you're right. 2014. So this is sort of like probably the biggest ever release in Forge's history, other than that first launch. Everything else has sort of been incremental, but, how are you seeing it like rolling forward? Are y'all gonna, as soon as this launches, you're just gonna sort of, come up with sort of minor features, based on feedback, or are you gonna start like maybe once a year, once every 5 years, doing like huge updates like this?
No, so it won't be kind of really big releases. At least we're not planning on that kind of release cycle. We have a large roadmap of things that we want to introduce. Something that I said when we demoed this next generation of Forge at Laracon Denver was that this is just the beginning. And I think that's what most excites me about where we are today. Forge is now in such a better position. We've gone back and made so many changes to be able to expand and evolve and continue to grow and add features and really nail what we already have as well. But yeah, it's very exciting. And the next 6 months, I would say, we're going to introduce a lot more features as well.
So, and then as far as like your feature roadmap, I assume like if you're a Forge user, you can just submit feature request if you have something, and then you'll just kind of filter through if anything's you really like or not.
Yeah, so if you have any suggestions for Forge, by all means email forge@laravel.com. They'll go through to our support team, but they hand all of the feedback over to ourselves. And we keep a track of that. We see what people are interested in. We're always listening to what people are saying, what people are asking for. And we're also looking at what customers are doing as well, is kind of like how many sites are we seeing that are WordPress or Statamic? Are people doing custom things? Are we seeing an increase in support tickets for running a certain framework feature or a package, that kind of thing? So yeah, by all means, always send feedback. We're definitely listening.
Nice. So this is just a personal question, and I've always been curious about this. I don't know if you know or not, but with Forge, you can have one server and you can have multiple sites on that server. How many people are just doing one site per server versus, many sites on a server?
Yeah, it's I don't know the kind of breakdown off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot of when I was doing support myself, I saw that quite frequently. And I never really questioned, like, are you doing high traffic kind of sites? Like, what's the reason for that split? A few years ago, we introduced website isolation. So what that is basically every site can run within its own PHP FPM process. And then that means that if you're running, particularly, it was built really for WordPress sites so that plugins can't go and delete files in other applications. And so it might be that a lot of those sites were created prior to website isolation, and the safest way is just to completely isolate it on a different server. But yeah, it's very common to run multiple sites on one server. That's kind of like how Forge is built, that it will work as well. But yeah, I don't know the exact breakdown.
Yeah. Well, what about you? Like what about like on your hobby projects or your personal stuff? Do you do one site per server, or do you kind of mix them in?
Multiple servers for different things, I guess. I have a lot of various projects that are all very different. So I have one platform that I want separated from something else. But if, like, let's say I've got one project that needs a blog, a worker, and the main website, then I would put those all onto one server. Unless there was a need to kind of scale that horizontally, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. Because I've been the opposite way. It's like always just had one server per site. That way, I figure that is totally isolated, and then I'm always safe. If something crashes, it's fine.
I mean, it's a perfectly good reason to do it as well. I think for a site like Laravel News, for instance, you get a lot of traffic. You want to make sure that that's not going to impact something else that you have running. I think, yeah, you gotta think about it, I guess. But if it's like two very small hobby projects, by all means, put them onto one server. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes. And then I guess, um, so Forge, I want to ask, you might not even know the answer to this, but how do you balance, Forge, like onboarding and stuff like that, as far as like Forge is designed for everybody from our startup hobby projects to, actually enterprises using this thing. So how are you making it, what's the right word? Powerful enough for, everybody, and making sure everybody understands how to do it and all that stuff. Is there anything UI wise that you have to do differently based on like how big of a servers and things like that?
Not particularly. I mean, in terms of performance, we try and be mindful that like servers can have different amount of resources. So when you install something like MySQL, we try and make sure that that's like the configuration is relevant to the size of the server that you're running. Um, but then in terms of the actual application itself, we I, I don't really know. Like we don't think about it too much. I think that
Right.
the team are very good at creating features, both from design to implementation, that work for all levels of Forge users. I think Forge is powerful enough that you could do a lot of things with it, like very complex customized deployments. But equally, it gives you the tooling to do what you need to do when you need it. So like with deployments, you can customize the script, but the script that you get by default is good enough for most sites. And when you do need to customize it, it's incredibly easy to do that. And by that point, you're probably familiar enough with like how that process works that you can feel comfortable doing it. Um, but then in terms of things like actual like enterprise features like roles and that kind of thing, I don't know. I can't really explain that. I don't know. We just
Gotcha,
try our
gotcha.
best.
I understand. I understand. But that's all the questions I have written down. Anything I missed that you want to talk about Forge before we jump off here?
One feature that I forgot to mention was that Forge now offers hosted domains for every site that you create. So you can, when you create a new site on a server, you can optionally create an onforge.com domain, just like you'd get with Cloud and Vapor. But we've brought that into Forge now, so you can start deploying your applications before you've spent a ton of money buying a domain. Which I personally have needed in the past and I've used recently as well. It makes it super easy to get started. It's between that and Laravel VPS, you can go from your code on your computer to a code on the server actually accessible through a domain in just a few minutes. And I think that's super cool.
That is, yeah, that's awesome. Um, and I guess finally, are y'all thinking about adding other integrations and stuff too, like in the future? Because I know right now, like you have the integrations page and you can go in and add, all these different services, everything, um, from Nightwatch to, whatever. Are y'all thinking about like making more of those in the future, or is that sort of you're going to stick with what you have for now?
No, there's always a potential to add more, especially around demand as well. So if there's a service that comes up that people keep asking us for, then yeah, we'll probably look at implementing that. We want to make Forge as easy as possible to deploy your application, configure it, and actually use the services that people are using. So if we're able to add an integration that does that, then yeah, we'd be happy to do it.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Well, James, I want to thank you for spending some time with me today, and looking forward to trying everything out, getting, switching Laravel News over to a new VPS, and that way I can have the instant setup and all that, all the goodies that's involved there.
Yeah. Firstly, Eric, thank you so much for having me. long time listener for Laravel News and reader. And yeah, I'm very excited for Forge. It's been a great release. And yeah, can't wait to see what the future brings.
Awesome. Everybody go check it out. It's at forge.laravel.com. I think that's correct. And
That's right.
if you haven't tried it, go give it a try. And if you're already a user, then you should have the new UI as of the time this comes out. So go check it out.